What does 2025 have in store for us? Today, you're going to hear our thoughts and more regarding the outlook for this coming year.
The Den, powered by the Lyons Group, a show dedicated to exploring hot topics in real estate, local happenings, and industry trends. We're a small team of professionals approaching $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 local transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Den. Today is our 53rd episode in the beginning of 2025, so we are going to give some predictions. But before I get to that, let me introduce my friends, my partners, my co-hosts, the fellow members of the Lyons Group. To my left, Paul, Hammy the Rockberry, Aspen the Ninja Groen, and the boss, Shannon Martinez. My name is Ben, the Oracle Lyons. I did so well on the last year's prediction. Oh, stop. You and I were in last place.
I didn't want to bring it up.
Yeah, well,
I was going to bring it up.
Yeah, it's here. So last episode, we caught up with our predictions because a year ago, we made predictions on how 2024 would perform, specifically with the interest rates. But this time around, we're going to talk about 2025 and should we do interest rates or other things?
Yes.
Yeah, we should not because Paul and I failed miserably.
No, it's people that go, I don't know, I'm going to pick the biggest range possible. They're the ones that won.
But we were right. So
they were right. It's the price is right. You know,
let's not do interest rates.
Okay.
We should all write them down and then have otherwise I'll just steal Shannon's again.
I was going to say,
scorecard.
Just make me go first and then just try to bid right off.
I like that idea. Can I write it down?
We used to say that. I agree.
I agree. So 2025 is going to be an interesting year. Are we looking at a year that's going to be profitable in real estate? Do we think that real estate is going to continue to appreciate across the country, but maybe specifically here locally? What are your thoughts, Shannon? I'm going to kick it off with you since you're looking so intently at me like I'm really thinking through this. See, that's what happens. You start thinking, the wheels turning, and I go,
I know.
Here you go.
And then I get called on.
Yeah. So what's kind of your thoughts on the real estate market that this year moving forward?
I guess my thought would be, I think the pendulum is going to shift this year. Now, whether we will see all the fruits of that yet, I don't know. I think that we're going to start seeing some help with inflation. I think we're going to start seeing some maybe interest rates tick down a little bit. So I think we're going to start seeing those changes, but I don't know if this year we're going to see a huge shift in our market condition. I do think it's going to get a little bit better, but I think that kind of stuff takes time. I think you kind of see it. It's one of those things where steps have to happen before you start seeing the results. So yeah, I think we're going to start seeing some improvements this year, but maybe not to the extent that we might see the next year.
Now, we're still very much in a seller's market. Mm-hmm. And for those viewers that don't know what an absorption rate is, basically, if we were to take our current level of inventory of homes and not get any new listings, and those homes sold at a specific rate, let's use a round number, 100 homes that we have in the market, and we don't take any more listings, and 25 homes sell a month, that's a 4-month absorption rate, and that is still considered a seller's market because things are moving pretty quickly. When you hit 5 to 6 months, that becomes kind of an equilibrium. And then after that, it becomes a buyer's market. Right now, our absorption rate here locally is about 2.5 months. So very much a seller's market. Do you see that continuing, or do you see it becoming more of a buyer's market? Or what are your thoughts there? Anyone can chime in on that question.
I still think it's going to be a seller's market.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more inventory come up. I actually don't think houses are going to appreciate as quickly as they have been. I think we might see, I don't even necessarily think we're going to see a dip in prices, maybe a little one, not a drastic back to pre-COVID prices. I think we're going to have a little bit of a dip.
Predictions, right?
Prediction. Okay, yeah.
Because I did a little bit of looking up this time. Last time was off the cuff. So
that's how you win, I guess, apparently.
Yeah. But I think it's going to be a more steady year this year. And I think it's still going to stay a seller's market because we don't have the inventory we need yet. And maybe going the following year is when we'll start to see more of a buyer's market.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think it's going to take time for things to shift.
And sellers, if you're listening to us, seller's market does not mean you get a price wherever you want. Let's just put that on the table.
Right.
Sellers,
Just have a little more advantage than the buyers do at
you
this
just
point.
have a little bit more of an advantage than the buyers, and you can put yourself in a good position. That's what a seller's market is. But and there's ranges there, obviously, but that doesn't mean you can just go willy nilly. But now, stop willy nilly.
You got that one right.
Yeah, I did say that right. What was the other? What was
Rigmarole.
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 It was the weirdest word I ever heard.
Okay, let's not go backwards. Paul, what are your thoughts this year moving forward? Now, Aspen, do you think its values are going to kind of settle down a little bit? Paul, do you agree with that, or are you thinking we're still on an uphill with appreciation, or we're going to have to see a crash?
I don't think there's a crash coming. I think there's a leveling off. We're starting to see appraisals come in a little bit lower. We're also starting to see more inventory come on the market. So, simple supply and demand rules state that the more inventory comes up, the more it's going to be towards that equilibrium. I think we're headed towards a buyer's market, but we're still pretty much in the seller's market. And we've seen that people that are pricing with 2022 prices, 23 prices, the market's they're just sitting there and the market's running away from them. So in 25, I think it'll get closer to an even market.
Yeah. It's a little bit more equilibrium between buyers and sellers. What about interest rates? Right now we're sitting...
Not touching
Go ahead,
it.
Paul.
Not even touching it.
Go ahead. Tell us what you think,
I was the
Paul.
worst one last year. Nope. Not even going to do it.
Okay, we are going to do it.
I will say this.
Party pooper.
I know.
Party pooper.
I will say this, though. Everybody thought they were going to have an immediate cut right after the election. They went up, and they're still up. So,
yeah.
Who knows?
That's why this is a fun game, because we don't know.
No one knows.
I think they're going to stay.
Unless the Oracle chimes in. The Oracle. So
you lost too, man.
I'm like Dory, the Oracle Dory. So here's a short memory.
So here's the question. Do we think they're going to get closer to 6 or closer to 7? That might be the easier one.
Good question.
See, I think they're going to stay close to. I don't think they're going to go up.
So you think they're going to get closer to 6?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was thinking I think this is about the highest they're going to be, because they're high and it's hard to afford a house with these rates. And I think maybe they're going to start seeing people not be able to afford it because people are holding on to their houses, especially the houses that they got in COVID. And I think it'll go down. I don't think it's going to get in the 5s though. If it gets down to like 6.1, I think that'd be.
Now the new administration is going to put a lot of pressure
on
the feds to drop interest.
To lower.
I'd love to see it in the 5s.
Yeah.
So last year we did a range. What if we do this time next year, what the interest rate is?
Okay.
And who gets closer?
Now let's establish the rules, right? Okay.
You have to pick one number.
One number.
Okay.
And that number has to be when we do the podcast.
It's Price is Right rules. Whoever's closest.
And what is this? This is what we think the lowest it will be in
No.
2025?
What it'll be on this date.
December.
Oh, what it will be next
when
1 year from today?
Yeah, when we do the 106th episode.
Yeah, it's 104th.
104th.
Yeah. So just so everyone knows, when I was Googling last night, where the mortgage rates had gone, it was hard to kind of delineate because for whatever reason, if you're in the year, they don't do the graphs and all that as much. But you can get the average mortgage rate of that day right then and there. So I think we're sitting at like 6.77 right now. So 1 year from now, Shannon.
6.
Whoa.
On a 30-year fixed.
She's like Annie Oakley coming out shooting.
And in 1 year from now,
6.
You're buying me lunch.
I'm buying lunch today.
Again.
So Shannon's at 6. Ninja.
While you're writing it down, you're going to lose that. Just go back to this episode.
That's right.
I'm going back and forth between 2, and I was thinking 6.1, but I'm like, I really do want it in the 5s. So I'm like, do I want 5.9 just to be optimistic? I think 6.1.
6.1.
6.125.
Yeah, why am I writing it down? This thing's being recorded.
Well, is it? I don't know.
Yeah, we are.
You didn't check that. Yeah.
It's always up in the air if you actually record it or not.
The cameras are on, right?
I can't say anything because I missed them.
You're at 6.1. Paul Barry, what are your thoughts?
Oh man, 6.3.
6.3. I'm gonna be a little optimistic.
Go in the 5s.
I'm gonna be 5.85. 5.85.
I hope you're right.
The Oracle speaks.
And I hope Paul loses again.
Me too. Wait a minute. This boat is sinking and I'm on it with you, buddy. So what are your thoughts on maybe some problems that we will likely see in 2025? Obviously, we have a housing shortage right now. The crisis is what they call it. 7 million homes short across America. Are we going to see more problems in that regard? Any legislative things coming down the line that may be of concern? 2025 could be a mixed bag.
Yeah, we're definitely fighting rent control. Even the president said something last month about implementing rent control across the country. So we're definitely looking at that. We're looking at a bill this year for squatters' rights, trying to change how that works, because you get into a house, it's yours.
Yeah, squatters shouldn't have rights.
That possession is 9/10 of the law.
thing.
That's kind of true.
Yeah.
That's called theft.
Yeah.
I was going to say
it's trespassing.
It's that I feel it's equivalent to saying, hey, if I made it out of the door at Walmart with this microwave under it's mine now. I made it through the doorway. It's mine.
A lot of places, that's right.
I mean, and it's fair game now. You got to tackle me inside the store or it's mine. It is theft. It is theft. It's the same thing. Yeah, there should be no rights for squatters.
And we're putting it out as a crime bill.
Yeah, that's what it should be.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, good.
So that's
good.
That's
good.
That's the other thing we're doing.
Well, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, no worries.
Don't defend it.
No, I wasn't. We're talking a lot. This is all in New Mexico. Short-term rentals, working on that.
Like
Commercial
a VAT tax? Like a VAT tax?
Well, they're trying to classify it all commercial. So that would, a lot of people that are depending on that for income, it would absolutely change how it's taxed, and it would cost them a lot more. We're working on commercial assessed values. That's something in the state of New Mexico. We're a non-disclosure state, and commercial has not really been touched in that regard. So they're trying to make it the same rules as residential. The commercial world's really pushing back on that. And then a lot of other crazy things, transfer tax, death tax, the millionaires tax that's coming up. They want to tax certain second homes at like 10%. We're trying to stop all that.
Well, one of the things that really can move the needle for home ownership and investing is bonus depreciation. So when that was implemented, it started to it phases out. And I think we're in the year where it is basically almost back to neutral. I think the new administration may kick in more bonus depreciation, because what that does is give a big tax benefit people to invest in properties. And if that's the case, you want to take full advantage of that, because that's an immediate bottom line deduction on your taxes if it's structured right. And so I think that one of those things would be good. But circling back to the squatters' rights, people break into houses and they slip on a banana peel and crack their head and they sue you. Like, wait a minute, you're breaking in.
You had no right being in my house.
Yeah, why are you fell through my ceiling trying to rob me, and then and they've won. Right?
Yeah, some of these laws are absolutely ridiculous. And I think we need to start protecting people. The courts seem to be really concerned about protecting the person that's causing a problem, but they don't really look at the fact that, it's not that I don't have sympathy if you can't afford a place to go, but then check the Salvation Army, check some of the local help places, check places, that are going to give you some assistance with your rent. You do not walk into your neighbor's home and take from them and say, you are now financially responsible for keeping a roof over my head until the courts legally remove me from here, which could be 6 months, 6 years. That really hurts people. That hurts that property owner. And so that's why it bothers me so bad. It's not that I don't have sympathy for someone that doesn't have a place to go. It's that, you can't make your problem somebody else's financial burden. You can't do that, because now they're hurting.
So you think the pendulum's swinging back to where there's more common sense in that regard? Would that be the consensus?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not that we know that people need homes and that there's housing shortages and they don't have places to go, or they can't afford their rent, or they fall on hard times. We get all that, and we sympathize with that. So it's not that we don't, but you cannot give someone a right to stay in that place in their life and just make it someone else's, just the average Joe citizen, just because I found your house to sit in, or I found your house to sit in, that I am now your financial responsibility until it's sorted out through the courts. I think that's very unfair, because what likely is going to happen is you're going to to be financially burdened. You're either going to lose that house or you're going to somehow suffer some other financial burden because of that. You're just shifting the burden from the person who's having the issue instead of them seeking the help where they could resolve the issue to someone because they just believe that you have the means to take care of it for them.
Yeah.
And I don't think the courts should be defending that and giving anybody rights to somebody else's financial security. I think that's wrong.
I think we got to watch the comments section on this one.
That's just my 2 cents. Yeah, because I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm not trying to say
I agree
we
too.
totally understand someone falling on hard times and not having money for their rent. You know, I mean, I had somebody. We've talked about that before. I had someone in my house for years that I covered bills because she had nowhere to go and no way to pay for it. You know, at some point.
Her problems became yours.
Yes, I cannot just support another separate family of 5 because she can't. Okay, go to your mom, go to your government, there are places. I mean, I suggested several times, why don't you go try to get some subsidized help from the government to pay the rent? Well, that's going to take time and effort and, how embarrassing. And much less embarrassing to let my family go to work and pay your bills. That's just not the way that we do things in America.
We don't
shift that.
Tenant rights, which I've spoken about many times.
I agree.
I think they're very important and necessary because as much as we like to say everyone's a good landlord, they're not.
Right.
Squatters' rights should not be a thing. It doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense that you have to lease your property to get them out of your property. Mm-hmm. That's really kind of the most efficient way to get a squatter out is to rent it to somebody else because then the tenant has more rights than the squatters, but you as a property owner don't. I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
That is mind-boggling. But while we're on the topic, what about rent control? So
I go back and forth.
Yeah, I'm on the fence with that. I mean, I want to capitalize if rents have gone up and that's the going rate, of course, that's what I want to get. But on the other hand, I do see, especially in these big cities, maybe not here so much, but in these bigger cities where, you see people paying $3,000 a month for a room, for a hallway, for nothing. And people are just doing that because they can get it. But again, it is supply and demand. I'm with you. I'm on the fence with it. I don't know. I think there should be, the free market should determine things, but there also should be boundaries of absolutely taking control. Taking advantage of people in a situation like that.
I think the issue is here, we don't have these huge corporation hedge funds owning housing. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's like, well, Ben's not going to raise the rent on someone. You're not going to do it like that because that wouldn't be right. And if we do, it's a little bit. And you work with them on the back end. You have someone who fell upon hard times. Their husband passed away. Something happened. They lost their job. You work with them. Right. Because we're people. We live in the community.
That's right.
But whenever you have these big corporations, you are just a number. And when they own 50,000 homes, 80,000 homes, hundreds of thousands of homes, they don't care. Right. They just want to see the profits increase. And it actually doesn't matter if homes are sitting empty because if their other homes are rented at a higher rate, they don't care. Right. So I think that's where I go back and forth because for like us average people, it doesn't sound fair and we're doing the best we can. But then I do think there needs to be some limit for these major corporations in these big cities. It's hard because we're looking at it as a local versus looking at it in a big city. It's a lot different.
And that's the problem is you can't have a blanket rule for areas that completely operate differently. Like I understand why New York City would need rent control, but I can't understand why Farmington, New Mexico would need rent control.
Right. Because they just won't rent.
One of the things that we hear about is like these ski resort towns or something like that where you can't, the workers of the ski resort can't afford to live there.
Live somewhere else.
Telluride.
Yeah, exactly. And we have that right close to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whenever I had my yoga studio in Telluride, we were able to qualify for affordable housing. That was a $500,000 studio.
Right.
There was no way that as a yoga instructor, I was going to be able to afford a $500,000 studio, especially with I'm married and have kids, but that's besides the point.
Right.
So yeah, it's when people are having to travel through the mountain towns, which is dangerous, to go work in the service industry. It doesn't really, I don't think it's sustainable long term.
I have a customer right now that works in Durango, wants to live here. She just cannot afford to live there.
Almost all my Aztec sales were Durango.
We're Durango people, exactly.
Pushing down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the open market should determine rates to a large degree. I just think let capitalism do its thing, right? If people don't want to live in an area that it's really expensive, then they should move and do something different.
What about their jobs, though?
But then I have the caveat of, well, I think about the elderly couple that's on fixed income. or, husband or wife passes away and, now all of a sudden you're jacking up the rent on this couple that this is all that they can afford. I have a heartburn with that, especially when there's ways you can work with these tenants and things you can do.
And if you're already making a profit, if they've already been there, you're already making it. This isn't a new listing coming on. If you're having a new one come on, but then you have the issue of people pushing out other people. I have a disabled vet in one of mine. I worry about even selling that property because I'm worried he will get displaced or rent will be jacked up. So,
and that's a real thing.
It is.
And that's how people become homeless.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem we face. So just to circle us back to 2025, we think that maybe the pendulum is going to swing in the favor of property owners, property rights, specifically with some of the squatting issues that we faced. Obviously, there's rent control stuff that's on the board as well, and some of these other bills that will come in. Inevitably, a transfer tax is going to be on the board.
Isn't it every year?
Every single year,
Yeah.
we come out and fight against the transfer tax.
Yep.
What other bullets are we going to avoid or you see coming down the line, Paul?
There's just a lot. The governor is big on crime. She's actually working with the Republicans to get some crime bills passed. So we're trying to use this momentum in our favor. We fought the R1. We talked about this on another podcast about zoning. Affordable housing is another issue. Hopefully we can fund MFA again. Last year, the governor had that affordable housing committee or council that she put together. They funded it quite a bit. We're going to make sure that money goes in the right place. That's some of the stuff we're going to be working on this year. But when this topic came up, I had a prediction.
Okay, lay it on us.
I think we're going to get less and less face-to-face with people, and it's going to be more automated. I think something's going to come up like Zillow or one of these companies has like a Carvana type thing. You don't have to go into the house. The house is listed. You can buy it online. You never have to see it, and everything is hands off, like the Amazon for houses.
But it's already so hands off, and we all know how different listing pictures can look. I don't disagree with you, but I think that will be bad if that does happen.
Yeah, well, it's such a instant gratification, time. Nobody wants to wait. Nobody wants to do, and especially when it's getting harder to buy a house. I think somebody's going to come along and make it a heck of a lot easier. It's going to change.
So you think that's going to happen this year?
I think we're going to start seeing it.
Yeah.
Do you think it should be easier to buy a house, though? Because I don't feel like it's an exceptionally complicated process as long as you have everything you need and all your ducks in a row. I mean, you go look at it, you make the offer, you do your inspections, you get your appraisal, and then you close. It's not exceptionally complicated. I think it can seem like it, especially in New Mexico with all of our forms. We have way too many forms, personally, I think.
Right.
I don't know if it should be simpler. Like, we're talking about a multi-$100,000 purchase.
Well, I don't think it should be, but I think somebody's going to come along and make that, make the great idea to have a company that'll do that for you. Or like, all you have to do is click buy now. They go build you a house and you move in. I think that could be coming. It shouldn't be easier because that's what happened.
Maybe the seeds of that in 2025.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But, I don't think it should be easier because that's how we had 2008 happen.
Things just got reckless. There's no guardrails.
Yeah. And now we have guardrails. And I think that's why we have such the process that we have now. That's gotten even harder.
My question actually jumped back in my head. What are your thoughts on how many realtors are going to stay in the business? This was a tough year for a lot of realtors. There are a lot of terminations nationwide. I think 40% termination rate. What are your thoughts on realtors? Are they going to stay in the business?
There's always a high turnover of realtors. 87% in the first 2 years.
Oof. There's
always a high turnover. It's nothing new. So I do think in the 3-year span, there will be turnover just like there always is.
But this next 12 months, we're going to see I think we have 1.57 million realtors.
I don't know, because most of it is on a 3-year cycle for your licensing. So maybe not in this next year. It is expensive to retain your license year to year, though. So I think by the time it actually comes to license renewal rather than just board renewal, that's whenever we'll see.
Makes the decision, yeah. And we'll start to see those numbers here in the next 30 days. And if we're having a down downtick in.
So far, we're not down at the board.
Wow.
We're up at the board this
That
year.
is absolutely incredible.
Well, and the prediction that we were supposed to lose 50% at NAR.
Yeah.
So across the country, 50% of realtors are supposed to get out of the business. We haven't seen any of that.
I think we budgeted for a 30% decrease at our local board, and
We're still net ahead.
Yeah. Which is good.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we want.
I think I need to serve again. They're going to pay for some travel and some food. What do you think?
Well, not if I'm doing it again. I cut travel.
This is a bad time to get in.
Not with Aspen running it because
Aspen
I cut stuff. Yeah,
I just didn't go.
Yeah. Well, I do think that nationally, though, I do feel like America's finally at a point where we need to come together and have some constructive conversations on both sides of the aisle, get things done to help move America forward and our citizens forward. And I feel like this year, this is just my prediction, I feel like there's going to be some reaching across the aisle on both sides, and hopefully we'll get some good traction and good conversation. We've lost the ability to have a conversation, and that's not a good thing. We need to be able to sit down on some of these hard topics and have a conversation. It's pretty transparent. And if at the end of it you agree to disagree, that's totally fine. But then it's not ugly and visceral and, hate filled. And it's a conversation. And I may walk away with some new viewpoints and you may as well. And that's the whole point. That's the beauty of our system. But we haven't been using our system right.
You're starting to grow, Ben.
Am I?
Yeah.
Man, you know what this is called?
Because 4 years ago, this was not what you were saying.
Yeah, I was a little hot under the collar, but I think it's going to be a good thing for us. I do see hopefully some healing these next 12 months. We have a minute left. Biggest change in the industry, Shannon, in 2025, what do you think it's going to be?
I don't know. I mean, I don't see anything coming down the pike. This 2024 had so many changes. We had so much shifts that we made in our business. I don't see anything big coming up next year. I mean, maybe it does, but
you think it's going to be more of a settling?
I think so. I feel like it's just kind of, I don't think we're going to see a lot of big changes next year. I think 2025 is going to be a year of just settling in and maybe getting used to all the new stuff. And, we'll see some things. I don't think we're going to have a huge shift. I think it's going to stay a seller's market.
Fair enough. Aspen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. We had so many changes this year. It's probably not, we can't have as many changes this year. Yeah. I hope not, at least. So I do think it's going to be a settle-in year. I do think there's going to be some shifting with the changes because we've seen some things working. Some things aren't working as good on the consumer side. So I think we might have a little bit of adjusting, but I think for the most part, it's going to be pretty much stay the same.
Settle in a bit. Mm-hmm. Yep. Paul? Drones everywhere. Mm-hmm. UFOs coming down. Beam
just
me
start
up.
shooting them out of the sky.
I was going to say something kind of conspiracy theory, and I know I'm off camera now, but I've been really looking into, and Aspen's mentioned this before, but these big corporations buying up a lot of properties. I think there's going to be something that comes of that this year.
You think with this administration?
I think they're going to, yeah.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
Mm-hmm. I think they are. I think they will. Robert F. Kennedy. Record. So Kennedy is a big opponent of what they're doing. So hopefully he brings a voice to that. So I think that's going to happen, which will be good for the industry. And I do think the inevitable is going to happen. There's going to be a push button, get house. Like Rocket Mortgage was push button, get mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a
push button and you jump behind a bush or from behind a bush and like, I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paul's on the
sign right here.
Yeah. I think that's
realtor.
But I think that's what it's going to be. It's like, yeah, we're going to build you a house right there. They don't even have to do anything.
Wow. So maybe we'll start to see the seeds of that in this year.
I think so.
Okay. Interesting. And I'm going to round us out. I think this is the year that we find out we're not alone in the universe. Okay. Drones are kicking it off, but somehow
they're already talking about all the UFOs.
There's so much stuff going on.
Yeah.
People won't, but America won't even notice.
Aliens. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're worried about what the Kardashians are.
That's not even in my top 100 things.
That was so last year. I mean, come on.
I thought it was going to be the AI robots for you or something.
The Prime. Yeah, Primus is what they call it. I think the same in the market. It's going to settle down a little bit. I don't see any major shifts. It'll move more toward maybe a buyer's market or an equilibrium, because we're still a very solid seller's market right now. But I think these are all great thoughts, and we'll revisit this next year and see who gets to buy.
See how wrong we are.
How wrong, Paul. I hope we don't do it 2 years in a row. But thank you for listening to this episode of The Den. If you like our content, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to our Facebook page. We have TikTok, Instagram, everything in between. But if you'd like to schedule a consultation with any one of us here at the Lyons Group, go to sjcbroker.com and you can reach us at any point and schedule your own private consultation. Whether you're buying or selling residential or commercial, we can give you an advantage in today's market. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Den. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed on real estate happenings. If you'd like to learn more about the Lyons Group, visit sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lyons Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in The Den.